in the world of Drag Race, there are favorites, there are fan favorites, there are those that aren't as well as received by the public. And today, there's been so many seasons of Drag Race that I found this tier list, and I cannot help but I'm in for it. It's a fan favorite battle royale across multiple seasons, multiple franchises at this point, so we're going deep. So we have Blue Hydrangea versus Electroshock. Who do I prefer? Might be controversial. I thought Electroshock was fantastic. I liked her personality a little bit more. Blue's still great. Well-deserving winner of her season. But let's go with Electroshock. Let's make it interesting. Darian versus Davina. I love Darian. I'd say Davina takes it for me. Bob versus Isis. Oh, controversial from a Canadian picking an American, but Bob's great. I love Bob. Chad versus Heidi. I mean, Chad's a legend. You gotta go with Chad. Pork Chop versus Valentine. No contest. Pork Chop. Scarlett Adams versus Raven. I mean, Raven at this point is such a mainstay, such an icon. You gotta go with her. Oh, this one's hard. Shangela versus Chanel. Who do you go for in this case? I'm gonna go controversial, not even controversial. Shangela's probably the correct choice. Even though, let's not deny, Chanel is pretty great. For me, Roxy versus Sasha. Sasha takes it easily. Actually, when I was working at Shopify still, I know I'm wearing the crop top today. When I was working for Shopify, I actually helped Johnny Velour set up their store. I was very happy. It's very cool. Probably one of the few times where I was just like, this is awesome. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend working for Shopify anymore. Trinity K. Bonet versus Pearl. Trinity, not even a contest for me. Eureka versus Ellie Diamond. I mean, I guess Eureka. I don't hate Eureka by any means, but Trixie versus Yara. I know Trixie's beloved, but I think Yara is more iconic for my opinion. Baga versus Sharon. I'll go with Chips. I'll go with Team Chips. Adore versus Gottmik. No contest. Adore's fantastic. Remember, initially I didn't like Adore, but she's grown on me in a major way. Bandit versus Detox. I do love Bandit. I thought they were so interesting and cool, but I have to go with Detox. I feel like Detox just, even with that black and white look she wore to the reunion that one time, fantastic. I fully respect it. Carmen versus Tia. I would go with Tia Coffee. Brooklyn Heights versus Vanessa Van Cartier. For me, Brooke takes it. Lawrence versus Gigi Good. I was a huge Gigi Good stan. I think that she's wonderful and does great stuff. Ahura versus Akira. I like how it's the battle of the A apostrophes. I gotta go with Akira. Carmen Farala, who is amazing on her season. I loved her. But Bimini was robbed. But what a comeback queen. When she came back, she was just like, I am here. I am here to slay. I am here to kill it. And she did. She did great. Jimbo versus BB. I gotta go with Jimbo. Miss Cracker versus Kennedy. Controversial choice. Kennedy Davenport takes it for me. Kennedy is an often overlooked queen, but does fantastic things. I will say Ginger Minj is my choice between Ginger and Chelsea Boy. Chelsea Boy brings a really interesting form of drag. I will say. I love this look. The whole Japanese gold fix it. Oh, I love it. I thought it was so cool. But Ginger's probably one of my all-time favorite queens. So, well, we'll see how true that stands. Art Simone versus Kenya Michaels. I gotta go with Kenya. Jujubee versus Olivia Lux. Well, Jujubee's one of my 10 favorites as well. I don't think that's going to be a shocker. Karen from Finance from Miss Meet Leona. I'm going to go with Karen. I thought Karen was very funny on her season. Monet versus Natalia. Everyone's going to choose Monet, but, Natalia takes it for me. Thailand Queens for the win. Alexis Michelle versus Kylie. I'll go Kylie. Deserving winner, did very good, but... Oh, Jinx versus Trinity. I gotta go Jinx. Alexis Mateo versus Vivian. I will go with Alexis Mateo. Katya versus Candy. No contest for me there. Simone versus Manila Luzon. Tough one. Ooh. And I gotta go with Manila. I think Manila's fantastic. Alaska versus Kanya Warrior. I've met Kanya Warrior, actually. And you know what? In person... She was not very nice, so I gotta go with Alaska. Not that I think any of them are really nice. Electra versus Davina, go with Davina. Bob versus Chad. Go with Bob. Parker versus Raven. I gotta go with Raven. Sasha versus Shangela. I'll go with Shangela, actually. Trinity versus Eureka. I'll go with Trinity. Next up, we have Yara versus Baga. I'm going to go with Yara again. I think Yara brings something really interesting. Adore versus Detox. Okay, hard one. Sorry, my dog is doing... Adore, I'm going to go with Adore. No, I'm going to go with Detox. Tia versus Brooklyn Heights. I'm going to go with Brooklyn Heights. Akiria versus Gigi. I'm going to go with Akiria. Jimbo oh, tough one. I will go with Jimbo. Kennedy versus Ginger. I'll go with Ginger. Kenya versus Juju. I'll go with Jujubee. Karen from Finance. Natalia. Gotta go with Natalia. Jinx beats Kylie in my opinion. Katja beats Alexis. And Manila beats Alaska. Alright, Davina versus Bob. I go with Davina. Raven versus Shangela. I go with Raven. Trinity versus Yara. I go with Trinity. Detox versus Brooklyn. I go with Brooklyn. Akiria versus Jimbo. I go with Jimbo. Juju versus Ginger. I go with Juju. Jinx versus Natalia. Okay, Natalia, it's your time. Katja versus Manila. I go with Manila again. Raven versus Davina. I go with Raven. Trinity versus Brooklyn. I go with Brooklyn. Juju versus Jimbo. Oh, no. I mean, I go with the OG. Okay, Juju. Manila versus Jinx. I go with Jinx. Raven versus Brooklyn. I go with Raven. Juju versus Jinx. I go with Jinx. Raven versus Jinx. I will say they're so neck and neck in my mind. I'll go Raven. Okay, Denali versus Gia. Denali. Easy. Monique versus Cheryl. I go with Mo. I go with Mo. Miss Abby, oh my god, versus Crystal Method. I'll go with Crystal Method. I think their makeup is so interesting and cool. Rita Baga versus Rosé. I'll go with Rosé, actually. Poopy Poison versus Courtney Act. I go with Poopy. Poopy was so much fun. Sagittaria versus Raja. I go with Raja, obviously. That one's a bit of a slaughterhouse. Priyanka versus Silky. I go with Priyanka. River Medway versus Fifi. I really liked River Medway. I think they did something good. But Fifi did get the short end of the stick multiple times, so I feel bad. I gotta go with Scarlet Bobo versus Plastique. Envy Peru versus Jan. Jan's probably still one of my favorites, so I think Jan is great. Vanda Miss Hokim versus Jada Essence Hall. I did like Vanda, but I gotta go with Jada. Tace versus Violet Chachki. I'm gonna go with Tace, actually. Jackie Cox versus Dovima. Jackie had a good attitude. Dovima didn't a lot of the time. Shea Coulee versus... Okay, I feel like this section is a little more stacked in favor of one versus the other. I love Tatiana. Tati's one of my favorite queens of all time. Again, an obvious choice to pick Willem. Lemon versus Naomi Smalls. Controversial, I'd go with Naomi. Ben de la Creme versus Nina West. And Ben's still one of my all-time favorites, but I do love Nina. Bianca versus Peppermint. I'm going to go with Bianca. My Little Pony versus Coco. I'll go with Coco, actually. Alyssa Edwards versus Nina Flowers. I'm going to go with Nina Flowers. Mama Queen versus Chi-Chi. Oh, Chi-Chi. Rest in power, girl. Killer Queen versus Derek Barry. I'm going to go with Killer Queen. I think they got a bit of a short end of the stick season, unfortunately. Well, Latrice versus Kimchi. Ugh, Latrice wins. Morgan McMichaels versus Pandora. I go with Pandora. From season 2, I still side with Pandora. Evie versus Angina. I will go with Angina. I love Angina. I think she's so cool. Ketamine versus Crystal. I mean... Oh, I don't know. I guess I go with Kita, but that's like a weak go with Kita. Like, they're so close in my head. Angelia Nong versus Janie Jacquet. I go with Angelie. Another one who I met on the street randomly, and they were so shocked I knew who they were. It was so much fun. Tyra and Asia. Asia. Aquaria versus Vivaldi. I'll go with Aquaria. Keita Minaj versus Cameron Michaels. Cameron Michaels has one of the best lip sync streaks I've ever seen. Jiggly versus Candy. I'll go Candy Cyanide. Did great work. I'm kind of surprised they don't have like B. Ella or Dearest Doll or even like I'm surprised they don't have any of the other Thailand queens on here, unfortunately. But anyways, Denali versus Mo. I'll go with Denali. What a robbed queen. Crystal versus Rose. I will go with Rose. Poopy Poison versus Raja. I have to go with Raja. Priyanka versus River. Priyanka. Scarlet Bobo versus... Oh, this one's hard. I'll go with Jan. I love me some Jan. Taste versus Jada. I will go with Taste. Jackie versus Shay. I'll go with Jackie. I like Jackie. I loved what they brought. Also, I recognize Canadian. I was with a Persian at the time, so that played a factor. Anyways, moving on. Tatiana versus Willem. The Shady Queens together. Oh, I love it. I do love both of them. But I'm going to give this to Tatiana. That same part's speech was fantastic. Ben is my favorite. Bianca versus Coco. I will go with that one's a little one-sided. That's okay. Nina versus Chi-Chi. I go with Nina. Killer versus Latrice. I'll go with Latrice. Pandora versus Angina. I go with Pandora. Nikita versus Angelique. I go with Angelique. Asia versus Aquaria. I go with Asia O'Hara. Cameron Michaels versus Candy. I go with Candy. Denali versus Rose. I go with Denali. Raja versus Priyanka. I go with Raja. I would go with Raja. Jan versus Tace. I go with Jan. Jackie versus Tatiana. I go with Tatiana. Ben versus Bianca. I go with Ben. Latrice versus Nina. I go with Latrice. Pandora versus Angelique. I go with Angelique. Candy versus Asia. I go with Candy. Raja versus Denali. I go with Raja. It's coming to the end. Tatiana. Ben. And I go... Angelie's taking it for me thus far. Raja versus Tatiana. I go with Raja. Ben versus Anjali. Ben versus Raja. I go with Ben. And Ben versus Raven. I go with Ben. That's it. That's it for me. What do you think? Who did I shaft? Who did I not shaft? Who would you have chosen? And who's missing from this list? That's my question. Let me know who you think is missing on this, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for watching. This has been just a short little video, but y'all have been great. I'll see you soon. Bye.